Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I would like to thank, first of all my friends and brothers and all the audience and the Council of European Khoja Jama'at and also the Federation of the Khoja Jama'at. My presentation is about one of the most important and one of the oldest codices of the Quran, the manuscript of the Quran that goes back to the 1st century of Islam, that can be considered as one of our strongest document and witness to prove the authenticity of the text of the Quran in the 1st century. As you may know, in the last decades in the Western academia, in the universities, we have lots of Western arguments, Western non-Muslim scholars who argued strongly against the historicity of the text of the Quran, and they believe that they present some strong argument against the historicity, and they say the text of the Quran could not be completed before the end of the 2nd century. It means that 200 after the death of the Prophet of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So every document, every witness goes back to the 1st century could be taken as a strong document for our knowledge, for our attitude to prove the authenticity of this text. The Western scholars and the specialists in the field of the manuscript studies, the codicology, says about the earliest manuscript of the Quran that they refer to 2 type of script. One of the ḥijāzī and the other is Kufi. The Kufi script you may see everywhere in the libraries and the internet, for example. In the left side is a Kufic, and in the right side is one of example of the ḥijāzī manuscript. The ḥijāzī manuscripts are the only, because of their characteristics and the elements of these manuscripts, they are so earlier than the Kufic one. The Kufic one belongs to the 2nd or 3rd or 4th century, but the earliest one, the earliest codices of the Quran goes back to the 1st century in ḥijāzī manuscript. It's in the script, the graphic of the script inclined to the right, as you may see in these pictures. For example, this belongs to the, for example, Sana'a, and this is so famous from Birmingham. You may be aware about these codices in Birmingham University in the right side, for example, comparing to one Kufic manuscript. So while we have lots of Kufic manuscripts all over the world, more than 2,000 or 3,000 manuscripts in the libraries and the museums, we have just nearly 50 manuscripts in ḥijāzī style. It goes back to the 1st century. One of them, for example, this manuscript from Birmingham. And among these ḥijāzī manuscripts, this valuable manuscript in ḥijāzī script, one manuscript is located in the shrine of Mashhad, in the shrine of Imam al-Riza alayhi salam in Mashhad, in the library of Quds. For example, the manuscript of Birmingham contains just 2 folios. It means that just 4 pages of the Quran remained in this manuscript. In contrast with this, in comparison with this manuscript, we have in the Quds library in Mashhad, Codex Mashhad, that contains more than 252 folios. And I discovered it nearly 15 years ago when I went there to study and research to do study and research concerning the early manuscript of the Quran, I found this manuscript and found the value of this manuscript to prove the historicity of the text in the 1st century after Islam. The Codex contains two manuscript number 18 and manuscript number 4116 in the Astana Quds library in vertical format in ḥijāzī script, and it has been transcribed. It has been copied in the city of Medina. Based on some of our research, now we know that the text has been copied in the city of Medina in the 1st century, and then was brought maybe in the cities of Iraq, maybe in Kufa or Baghdad, and from there it was brought to central Iran, and at last time to the city of Nishabur, near to Mashhad. We know by certain that the text of Codex Mashhad was in the city of Nishabur at the end of the 5th century. These are two pictures from two separate manuscripts of this Codex Mashhad in ḥijāzī style. And here's a map concerning the history of the text, but we don't know by sure how and why and when it was brought from the city of Medina to Kufa, and then from Kufa to the city of Nishabur. But from the first page of the manuscript, there is a waqfiyya, the deed of waqf here. It reads that هذا المصحف, this has been copied by, transcribed by the owner of the Mus'haf, who dedicated it to the shrine of Imam al-Riza. He was one of the Sunni muqri. He is a muqri, a teacher of Qur'an in the city of Nishabur, and originated from the city of Sari in north of Iran in Tabaristan, but lived in Nishabur. He believed that the text was copied by Imam Ali alayhi السلام, so he wrote هذا المصحف وهو بخط أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام وقف على مشهد السيد الإمام السعيد الشهيد أبي الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا رحمة الله عليه الموضوع بالتوس، وقفه مالكه علي بن أبي القاسم المقرئ السروي تقربا إلى الله عز وجل وطلبا لمرضاته يبلغ الله آماله. There are some other elements that shows the text was in Nishabur and in the hands of some Shafi'i figure. For example, here there is an indication that shows that the Surah Al-Fatiha was copied, was renewed on the first page by the hand of Wajih bin Tahir al-Shahami. He is one of the Shafi'i figure in the Nishabur in the 5th century. Now, after the dedication of the Codex to the shrine of the Imam al-Riza, we have 1,000 years. During this long time, the Mus'haf was preserved and kept in the Astana Quds library in Mashhad, and nobody published or said anything about the importance of this manuscript. Some years ago I found it and I proposed to publish it and to research about it to Hujjat al-Muslimin Sayyid Jawad Shahristani, the founder, the director of Mu'assisat al-Bayt in the city of Qom, and they accepted to publish it in a luxury manner in a facsimile edition. And last year it has been published as a facsimile edition with notes concerning the text, the history of the text, and with an Arabic and English introduction concerning the importance of the manuscript. After publication, this is the website of the Codex Mashhad. You can find everything about this codex and the importance of the codex in Arabic, in Persian, and in English. After the publication last year, it has been unveiled in the presence of the Hujjat al-Islam Sayyid Jawad Shahristani, the director of al-Bayt Foundation, and also the director of the Haram, the Al-Ataba al-Radawiyya, and then in the presence of lots of the ulama. And then I was present the copies of the Mus'haf to the Maraji, the grand authorities of Shia, the Maraji in the Qom, for example, Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, Ayatollah Makarim, Ayatollah Wahid Khurasani, Ayatollah Shubayri, Ayatollah Subhani, and Ayatollah Nuri, and also in Iraq, in the presence of Ayatollah Sheikh Fayyaz and Ayatollah Bashir al-Najafi, and above all, the Grand Ayatollah Sistani, Hafazahullah. And after that, they all said their appreciate and support concerning this kind of research because of its great power for our hawza, for our universities against the Western academia, to prove the authenticity of our book, of our holy book. And it's my honor to do such a work. But beside this, some of the Western scholars, some of the great Western scholars in the universities, for example, in UK or in the United States, they also wrote some papers, some letters concerning the importance and the value of this document to prove the authenticity of the text of the Quran. Among them, one can refer to Professor Nikolai Sinai from Oxford University and Michael Cook from Princeton University and François Desroches in Collège de France in Paris. It's is on the top of the codicologist of the Islamic manuscript, and also among them one Sunni figure. This is one of the most important Sunni figure concerning the ilm al-qara'a and the science of reciting and orthography of the text. His name is Qanem Qaddouri al-Hamad in the University of Baghdad, and so on. Okay, one point about dating of the text. Why should we believe that the text of the Codex Mashhad goes back to the 1st century? There are two different methods to prove the to dating one such a thing, such a Mus'haf, for example. The first one going to some analysis of the orthography of the text in the Arabic imla. And there are some elements in the writing of the text of this Quran that was not prevalent, was not current in the 2nd or 3rd century. And this knowledge comes from the Western scholars who are specialists concerning the Arabic writing in the 1st century. One can refer, for example, the writing of the kalimat shay as shy with an additional alif, which is so current in the Mus'haf Mashhad, Codex Mashhad, or qala without alif, or kana without alif. And for example, kalimat ji'tukum has been transcribed with an additional alif as jaitukum, or shi'ta has been copied with an additional alif as shaita. This kind of writing is so old, very old, and could not be found in any other manuscript from the 2nd or 3rd or 4th century. So among the Western scholars who are working about these codices, this is proved that such a things could not be found after the 1st century, and this should be taken place just in the 1st century. And there are lots of these examples. The second way is going to carbon dating, and it's also a scientific method to find out the time of producing something in a long time ago. For this period, I take some samples, some small sample from both part of the Codex Mashhad and sent them to 4 laboratories in Oxford, in Zurich, ETH in Zurich, and also in Arizona, and the last one to the Georgia, and 8 results I received. And by combining the all results, we reached to this time that to this result that text of the Codex Mashhad belongs to the second half of the 1st century. So it's very, very early manuscript of the Quran that can show us how the Quran read and how the Quran write, as we have now, nowadays in our libraries, in our homes. And this is a very, very important proof against tahrif al-Quran. Especially, of course, there are some difference in writing. In imla, orthography, there are some difference in variant reading, in ikhtilaf al-qira'at, and these are so normal in every text of the Quran in manuscript. From the 1st century or 2nd century or 10th century, you can find such things. But the text of the Quran totally was the same as we have now. And this is the diagram of carbon dating. And my last point is thanks to God who gave us this opportunity, this ability to do such a work for Muslim community and for researcher to do more and more about their holy book and their Quran. And thank you very much for you. I'm here for if there is any question, because we have a very short time. Thank you.